The ship from the Selanthi hegemony came out of hyperspace like a silver needle cutting through black cloth. Ambassador Kethvara stood at the viewing window and watched as Terran Station Prometheus grew larger. It was a massive thing, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Lights blinked along its metal skin like stars brought down from the sky. Kethvara was nervous. She had been a diplomat for 40 years, but this was different. This was the Galactic Concord Summit. 16 species would meet here to discuss peace. Real peace. The kind that could last for centuries, or the kind that could fall apart in seconds. "Ambassador, we are ready to dock," said her assistant, a young Selanthi named Vortek. Kethvara nodded. Her 4 compound eyes moved across the station once more. Somewhere inside that metal shell, the future of the galaxy would be decided. She turned to look at her guards. 12 of them stood in perfect formation behind her. Each one wore heavy armor that could stop plasma fire. Each one carried weapons that could punch holes through starship walls. Plasma rifles, neural disruptors, molecular blades that could cut through anything. This was standard. Every species brought armed guards to summits like this. Assassinations were common in galactic politics. Trust was rare. Weapons were not. The ship docked with a soft thump. The airlock hissed open. Kethvara walked forward with her head held high. Her guards followed in tight formation. On the other side, the humans were waiting. Kethvara stopped. She blinked all 4 of her eyes at once. Something was wrong. There were only 4 human guards. They stood in a simple line, wearing black uniforms made of ordinary cloth. No armor, no helmets, and most strange of all, no weapons. Not a single one. Their hands were empty. Their belts were bare. The lead human stepped forward. She was a woman with short dark hair and calm brown eyes. She smiled warmly. "Ambassador Kethvara, welcome to Prometheus Station. I am Commander Elena Vance. My team will be responsible for your safety during the summit." Kethvara did not move. Her eyes kept scanning the humans, searching for hidden weapons. There had to be something. A small pistol. A blade. Anything. There was nothing. "Where are your weapons?" Kethvara asked. Her voice came out sharper than she intended. Commander Vance did not seem bothered by the question. Her smile stayed exactly the same. "We don't carry any, Ambassador. It is Terran security policy." Kethvara felt her stomach twist. Behind her, she heard her guards shifting nervously. Their armor clicked and hummed as they tightened their grips on their rifles. "No weapons at all?" Kethvara pressed. "How do you expect to protect anyone?" "We have our methods," Vance said simply. "You are safe here. I give you my word." Kethvara wanted to argue. She wanted to demand an explanation. But something in the human's eyes stopped her. There was no fear there. No worry. Just a deep, quiet confidence that Kethvara could not understand. She decided to let it go. "For now, very well, Commander. Lead the way." Vance nodded and turned. The 4 unarmed humans walked ahead, and Kethvara followed with her 12 heavily armed guards behind her as they moved through the station. Kethvara noticed other delegations arriving. The Vorn came with 20 guards in insect-like exoskeletons. The Etherians floated by with their pale bodies wrapped in energy shields. The Crossian Empire's representatives marched past with so many weapons that they looked like walking armories. Every single delegation was armed to the teeth, except the humans. The other species noticed too. Kethvara saw the Vorn clicking their mandibles in confusion. She saw the Etherians exchange silent telepathic glances. Even the mighty Crossians seemed disturbed. Their general kept staring at the human guards with narrowed eyes. Word spread quickly. By the time Kethvara reached her assigned quarters, everyone at the summit knew about the unarmed human guards. It was all anyone could talk about. "It is madness," said the Crossian general at the welcome dinner that night. His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. "Unarmed guards? They might as well paint targets on their backs. Perhaps they are too poor to afford weapons," a Vorn diplomat suggested with a clicking laugh. "No," said an Etherian softly. Her pale eyes were distant, troubled. "The humans are not poor. They are not stupid. There is something else happening here. Something we do not understand." Kethvara said nothing. She sat at her table and watched Commander Vance standing by the wall. The human woman looked relaxed, almost bored. She held a glass of water in one hand and watched the room with those calm, unreadable eyes. Kethvara had been a diplomat for 40 years. She had learned to read people. She had learned to spot lies, to sense fear, to find weakness. She found none of these things in Commander Vance. What she found instead was something that made her scales itch with unease. It was the same feeling she got when standing at the edge of a very high cliff. The feeling of being close to something vast and dangerous. That night, after the dinner ended and the delegations returned to their quarters, Kethvara sat alone in her room. She stared at the ceiling for a long time. Then she opened a secure channel to Hegemony Intelligence. Her message was short. The humans are either supremely arrogant or they know something we do not. Investigate immediately. Highest priority. I want answers before this summon ends. She closed the channel and tried to sleep. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Commander Vance's smile. And she wondered what secrets were hiding behind it. The attack came on the third day of the summit. Kethvara was walking through the main concourse with two of her guards when the first explosion shook the station. The floor jumped beneath her feet. Lights flickered. Alarms began to scream. "Breach in Sector 7. Someone shouted through the communication system. "Armed intruders. All delegates seek shelter immediately." Kethvara's guards grabbed her arms and started pulling her toward the nearest safe room. But they were too slow. The attackers were already there. They came through a side corridor like a wave of metal and fire. 12 of them. They wore heavy Crassian battle armor, painted black to hide their identity. Their weapons were military grade. Plasma rifles, grenade launchers, blades that glowed with deadly energy. One of them pointed directly at Kethvara. "The Salanthi ambassador," he shouted. "Kill her. Stop the peace treaty." Kethvara understood instantly. These were extremists. Crassians who did not want peace. They had come to murder her and destroy any chance of ending the war. Her guards pushed her behind them and opened fire. Plasma bolts flew across the concourse in bright streaks of light. The attackers fired back. The air filled with smoke and the smell of burning metal, but there were too many of them. They were too well armed. One of Kethvara's guards fell with a smoking hole in his chest. Then another. Kethvara pressed herself against the wall. Her hearts were pounding. She could see death coming for her in the form of a Crossian soldier raising his rifle. Then Commander Elena Vance walked into the corridor. She did not run. She did not duck behind cover. She simply walked forward with slow, steady steps. Her hands hung loose at her sides. Her face was calm. "Human!" The lead attacker screamed. "Get out of the way or die." Vance did not answer. She kept walking. The Crossian pulled his trigger. A bolt of superheated plasma shot from his rifle and flew straight at Vance's chest, and then something impossible happened. The bolt stopped. It froze in midair, just inches from Vance's face. It hung there, glowing and crackling, as if time itself had grabbed it and held it still. Vance looked at the frozen plasma bolt. She tilted her head slightly, like someone looking at an interesting insect. Then she pushed. Kethvara did not see her hands move. She did not see any weapon or device. But the plasma bolt suddenly reversed direction. It flew backward faster than it had come. It struck the Crossian who had fired it and burned through his armor like paper. He fell without making a sound. The other attackers hesitated. That hesitation cost them everything. The other 3 human guards moved. They came from different directions, appearing almost from nowhere. And they were not running or fighting in any way Kethvara had ever seen. One of them walked toward a group of 3 attackers. An attacker swung a molecular blade at her head. She caught it between 2 fingers. Just 2 fingers. Then she squeezed, and the blade shattered into 1,000 pieces. Before the attacker could react, she touched his chest with her palm. He flew backward through the air and crashed into the wall 20 meters away. Another human guard stood completely still as 4 attackers opened fire on him from different angles. The plasma bolts curved around him. They bent like light around a black hole, passing by on all sides without touching him. He raised one hand and made a fist. All 4 attackers collapsed at once, falling to the ground like puppets with cut strings. The last human guard walked through the smoke like a ghost. Attackers tried to hit her with weapons, with fists, with desperation. Nothing touched her. She moved through them like water through stones. Everywhere she passed, enemies fell. 19 seconds. Kethvara counted them without meaning to. 19 seconds from start to finish. Then it was over. 12 attackers lay on the ground. Some were dead. Some were unconscious. None of them were moving. The 4 human guards stood among the fallen bodies. They were not breathing hard. They were not injured. They did not even look tired. Commander Vance turned to face Kethvara. Her smile was exactly the same as it had been on the first day. "Apologies for the disruption, Ambassador," she said in a pleasant voice. "Are you injured?" Kethvara could not speak. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. She was shaking, not from fear of the attack, from fear of what she had just witnessed. She had seen plasma stopped in midair. She had seen molecular blades shattered with bare fingers. She had seen weapons fire, bend around a person as if reality itself refused to hurt them. What were these humans? Other delegates were emerging from hiding now. They had seen everything. The Vorn delegation was clicking frantically, their mandibles moving so fast they sounded like machines breaking. The Etherians had turned paler than usual. One of them was trembling. The Crossian general stood frozen in place. His face was the color of old ash. He was staring at the fallen attackers with an expression Kethvara had never seen on a Crossian before. Fear. Pure, animal fear. Commander Vance looked around at all of them. Her expression did not change. "The threat has been neutralized," she said. "Please, continue to the summit hall. The meeting will begin in 1 hour." She turned and walked away with her team. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. No one followed them. No one said a word. But Kethvara knew that everything had changed. The secret was out now. The galaxy had seen what humans could do, and she had a terrible feeling that this was only the beginning. The message spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Within hours of the attack, every intelligence agency in known space was working at full speed. Ships carried encrypted data between star systems. Secret meetings happened in hidden rooms. Analysts worked through the night without rest. Everyone wanted the same thing. Everyone was asking the same question. What were the humans? On the Salanti homeworld, a team of researchers dug through ancient archives. They searched records that were thousands of years old. They read reports from the first contact with humanity, back when humans were just a young species taking their first steps into space. The reports said nothing special. Humans were soft. They had no natural weapons. No claws. No poison. No armor. They were fragile creatures from a small blue planet in an ordinary solar system. But the researchers kept digging. They found older records. Stranger records. Notes from Salanti explorers who had visited Earth before making official contact. One note made them stop and stare. The humans call their planet Earth, it read. But this name is too gentle for such a place. This world is a death trap. The air is filled with invisible killers they call diseases. The water hides predators with hundreds of teeth. The land shakes and breaks apart without warning. Fire falls from the sky. Ice covers everything for months at a time. And everywhere, at all times, creatures are trying to eat each other. How anything survives here is a mystery. How intelligent life evolved here is a miracle. Or perhaps a nightmare. The researchers shared this with the Hegemony Intelligence Council. It was interesting, but it did not explain what happened on Prometheus Station, on the Etherian homeworld. The High Council of Seers gathered in their Temple of Minds. The Etherians were telepaths. They could read thoughts. They could sense emotions. They believed they understood all minds in the galaxy. They were wrong. I touched the human commander's mind, said Seer Velen. Her voice was still shaking, hours after the event. I tried to read her thoughts during the attack. I wanted to understand what she was doing. And what did you find? The High Seer asked. Valen was silent for a long moment. Her pale hands trembled. An ocean, she finally whispered. An ocean of fire. Vast and deep and burning with power that has no name. She was not using all of it. She was barely using any of it. What we saw was like a single drop of water from an endless sea. The High Council sat in stunned silence. She noticed me looking, Valen continued. Her voice cracked. She looked back at me. Into me. For just a moment, I felt what she could do if she wanted to. I felt buildings crumbling. I felt stars dying. I felt reality itself bending like soft metal in her hands. That is impossible, the High Seer said. But his voice was not confident. I know what I felt, Valen replied. And I know this. What we saw on that station was her holding back. They were all holding back. We do not want to know what happens when they stop. On the Crossian homeworld, the Emperor himself called an emergency meeting of his war council. The Crassians were warriors. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. They feared nothing. They feared this. Show me the recording again. The Emperor commanded. The holographic display played the security footage from Prometheus Station. The council watched in silence as plasma bolts froze in mid-air. They watched molecular blades shatter against human fingers. They watched energy weapons bend around human bodies like light around a planet. We have analyzed the footage frame by frame, the chief analyst reported. We can find no technology, no devices, no tricks. Whatever the humans did, they did with their bodies and their minds alone. Psionics, the Emperor said. They have psionic abilities. Yes, but not like any we have seen before. The Etherians have telepathy. The Vorn have limited telekinesis. These powers are known. They are limited. What the humans showed is something else entirely. Something raw. Something wild. The ability to impose their will directly onto reality itself. The Emperor's claws scratched the arm of his throne. How many humans have this power? The analyst hesitated. We do not know, but we intercepted fragments of Etherian communications. They believe these 4 guards are not special among humans. They believe every human may have this potential. The room went cold? Every human? A general repeated. There are 12 billion humans in this galaxy. Are you saying all of them could become like those guards? We do not know for certain. But the Etherians believe most humans have this ability sleeping inside them. It does not wake up in everyone, but it can wake up. And when it does, he did not need to finish. Everyone understood. 12 billion humans. 12 billion potential reality benders. An army of beings who could stop plasma fire with their thoughts and break weapons with their bare hands. Not an army that could not be fought, could not be stopped, could not even be threatened. Why did they keep this secret? The Emperor asked quietly. If they have this power, why not use it? They could have conquered everything. No one had an answer, but far across the galaxy, in a small office on Prometheus Station, Commander Elena Vance sat alone. She was reading reports, drinking coffee, doing paperwork. She knew what was happening. She knew the fear spreading through the stars. She knew the meetings and the panic and the desperate analysis. And she knew that soon, someone would have to explain. She hoped they would understand. She hoped they would see the power was not the same as the will to use it. But she had lived long enough to know that hope was a fragile thing. She finished her coffee and went back to work. The summit was not over yet. There was still peace to protect. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was not scheduled. It was demanded. 16 species gathered in the Great Chamber. Their representatives sat in a circle, facing each other across a floor made of polished stone from 100 different worlds. Above them, the ceiling showed a live view of space stars and galaxies, spinning slowly in the eternal darkness. But no one was looking at the stars today. The Crassian warlord stood first. He was a massive creature, covered in thick scales and old battle scars. His voice was like thunder rolling through mountains. We cannot ignore what we saw, he said. The humans have been hiding their true nature from us. They are not the weak, harmless species they pretended to be. They are weapons, living weapons, and they have been lying to us for 300 years. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Heads nodded. Claws tapped on tables. Kethvera rose to speak. Her voice was calmer, but no less worried. I agree that we must address this, she said. But let us be careful with our words. We do not yet know the full truth. We do not know how many humans have this ability. We do not know its limits. Does it matter? The warlord interrupted. We saw 4 humans defeat 12 heavily armed soldiers in seconds. Seconds. If their entire species can do this, they could sweep through the galaxy like a plague. Nothing could stop them. Then we must contain them, said the Vorn High Commander. His mandibles clicked rapidly as he spoke. Regulations, restrictions. We must control how many humans can leave their territory. We must limit their access to other worlds. That is not enough, the warlord growled. Containment will not protect us. They are already everywhere. Human colonies, human traders, human diplomats. They have spread across the galaxy while we were blind to their true power. He slammed his fist on the table. We must strike first, before they realize how afraid we are. Before they decide to use their power against us. The chamber exploded into noise. Some species shouted agreement. Others shouted protest. The Etherians sat in silence, their pale faces unreadable. Finally, the High Seer of the Etherians raised her hand. Slowly, the noise died down. When she spoke, her voice was soft but carried clearly to every corner of the room. You speak of striking first, she said. But I must ask, who will lead this attack? Who will fire the first shot at beings who can stop plasma with their thoughts? No one answered. I looked into the mind of their commander, the High Seer continued. I saw what she was capable of. What I saw was not a soldier. It was not even a warrior. It was something older. Something that has no name in our languages. She could have killed everyone on that station if she wanted to. She could have turned the metal walls into dust. She could have torn the air from our lungs with a thought. She paused, letting her words sink in. But she did not. She stopped the attack. She protected the delegates. All of us. Even the Crassians, whose own people were the attackers. And then she smiled and offered apologies for the disruption. The warlord's face twisted. You think this proves they are peaceful? It proves they are dangerous. They play with us like toys. They smile while holding knives at our throats. Perhaps, the High Seer admitted. Or perhaps they smile because they have no desire to use those knives. We assume their power means they want to conquer. But what if we are wrong? What if enough speculation? The voice came from the main entrance. Everyone turned to look. A human man walked into the chamber. He was not tall. He was not muscular. He wore a simple gray suit with no decorations. His hair was gray with age, and his face was lined with years of work and worry. But when he walked, the most powerful beings in the galaxy watched him in silence. Ambassador David Chun stopped in the center of the circle. He looked around at the 16 species, meeting their eyes one by one. I apologize for interrupting, he said. His voice was quiet but steady, but I could not help overhearing your discussion. You are talking about my people. I think we have the right to participate in that conversation. You were not invited, the warlord snarled. No, Chun agreed. We rarely are when people discuss whether to attack us. But I am here now, and I would like to answer some of your questions. The real questions, not the ones you are afraid to ask. The chamber was silent. Kethvara leaned forward. Then answer this, Ambassador. Why did you hide your abilities from us? Why did you hide your abilities from us? Why did you let us believe humans were weak? Chun smiled. It was a sad smile. The smile of someone carrying a heavy weight. That is a fair question, he said, and I will answer it honestly. But first, I need to ask you something. When you discovered our secret, what was your first thought? Was it curiosity? Understanding? Trust? He waited. No one spoke. No, Chun said softly. Your first thought was fear. Your second thought was how to control us. Your third thought was whether to destroy us before we could become a threat. He spread his hands. And that, Ambassador Kethvara, is exactly why we kept our secret. Because we knew this moment would come. We knew how the galaxy would react. We have seen it before, on our own world, 1,000 times. The moment someone discovers that their neighbor is stronger than them, fear takes over. And fear leads to violence. He turned to face the warlord directly. You want to know why we kept this secret? Because we wanted peace. Real peace. Not the peace that comes from others fearing your strength. That is not peace. That is just a longer pause before war. The warlord's eyes burned with anger, but he did not interrupt. We wanted to be judged by our actions, Chun continued. By what we chose to do, not by what we could do. For 300 years, we have used our abilities to protect, not to conquer. We have stopped wars you never knew about. We have prevented disasters you never heard of. We have been guardians, not masters. He looked around the circle one more time. The question is not whether we have power. We do. The question is what we do with it. And for 300 years, the answer has been the same. We protect. We serve. We keep the peace. He straightened his shoulders. So now you know our secret. What you do with that knowledge is up to you. But I truly hope that you will choose to trust us. Because the alternative helps no one. He turned and walked toward the exit. Wait, Kethvara called out. You cannot just leave. We have more questions. Chun paused at the door. I know, he said, and I will answer them. All of them. But first, I want you to sit with what I have said. Think about it. Really think. When you are ready to listen instead of fear, I will be waiting. He stepped through the door and disappeared into the corridor beyond. The chamber remained silent for a very long time. 3 days passed after Ambassador Chun's speech. 3 days of arguments and debates and sleepless nights. 3 days of fear wrestling with reason. On the fourth day, the Galactic Council called another meeting. This time, the humans were invited. Ambassador Chun walked into the chamber with Commander Vance at his side. They were alone. No guards, no weapons. Just two humans standing before the most powerful beings in the known galaxy. The warlord noticed this immediately. "You come without protection?" he asked. There was something different in his voice now. Not anger. Something closer to curiosity. "We are never without protection," Chun replied with a small smile. "But I think you understand that now." The warlord made a sound that might have been a laugh. Or a growl. It was hard to tell. Kethra stood and faced the humans. She had not slept well since the attack. Her mind kept playing the same images over and over. Plasma freezing in midair. Blades shattering like glass. Reality bending to human will. But she had also been thinking about what Chun said. About choosing to trust. About being judged by actions, not potential. "Ambassador Chun," she began, "this council has discussed your words at length. We have argued. We have disagreed. But in the end, we have reached a decision." Chun nodded and waited. "We will not strike against humanity," Kethvora continued. "We will not try to contain or control you. Not because we are not afraid, we are. But because you are right about one thing. Fear leads to violence. And violence against humans would be suicide," the warlord finished. His voice was flat, accepting. "I was going to say pointless," Kethvara said. "But yes. Also that." Chun's expression did not change, but something in his eyes softened. Relief, perhaps. Or gratitude. "Thank you," he said simply. "That took courage. More courage than fighting, I think." The High Seer of the Etherians rose from her seat. Her pale robes flowed around her like water. "We have made our choice," she said. "But we still need answers. We need to understand. Help us understand, Ambassador. Help us see what we are dealing with." Chun nodded. He looked at Vance, who stepped forward. "I was born on Earth," Vance said. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "In a small town by the ocean. I was a normal child. Normal parents. Normal life. Then, when I was 12 years old, I woke up. The chamber was silent. Everyone was listening. That is what we call it. Waking up. The power is always there, sleeping inside us. In most humans, it never wakes. They live their whole lives without knowing it exists. But in some of us, something triggers it. Fear, love, danger. A moment when the need is so great that something deep inside responds." She looked at her own hands as if seeing them for the first time. "For me, it was a car accident. My father was driving. A truck came toward us. I knew we were going to die. And then, everything stopped. Time, motion, sound. I held it all still with nothing but my will. I pushed the truck aside like a toy. I saved us." She lowered her hands. "After that, I was different. I could feel the world in ways I could not before. I could touch it, change it. I could hear thoughts if I focused. I could move things without touching them. I could make energy do what I wanted. And your government recruited you," the warlord said. It was not a question. "Yes, they found me. They trained me. They showed me how to control my abilities instead of being controlled by them. And then they offered me a choice. Use my power for myself or use it to protect others." "You chose to protect," Kethvora said. "I did. We all did. Every human with abilities who joins Terran security makes that choice. It is not forced on us. It is offered. And we accept because we understand something that most beings in this galaxy do not." "What is that?" the High Seer asked. Chun answered. He pulled up a holographic display showing images from human history. Wars, explosions, cities in flames, bodies in streets. "This is our past," he said. "This is what we did to ourselves for thousands of years. We fought, we killed, we burned everything we built and then built it again just to burn it once more. We came closer to destroying ourselves than any species in the galaxy. Not once, not twice, many times. The images kept flowing. Weapons getting bigger, explosions getting brighter, death tolls getting higher. We learned," Chun continued, "slowly, painfully, with blood and tears and the ashes of countless civilizations that rose and fell before we finally understood. Power without wisdom is destruction. Strength without restraint is madness. The ability to destroy is worthless compared to the ability to choose not to." He turned off the display. "That is why we kept our abilities secret. That is why we use them only to protect. Because we remember what happens when power is used without thought. We carry that memory in our bones, in our blood, in every story we tell our children." He looked around the chamber. "The fate of the galaxy does not hang on our secret. It never did. It hangs on the same thing it has always hung on: trust, cooperation, the choice to see each other as partners instead of threats." He paused. "We have shown you our truth. We have revealed our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. We have trusted you with knowledge that could destroy us if used against us. Not because we are naive, but because we believe that trust must start somewhere." He extended his hand toward Kethvara. It was a human gesture, a greeting, an offer. "We are asking you to take a leap of faith, to believe that we mean what we say, to build something new together, not because you fear us, but because you choose to work with us." Kethvara stared at the offered hand. Her 4 eyes blinked slowly. She thought about the past 300 years. Humans had been part of the galactic community all that time. They had traded. They had explored. They had helped where help was needed. They had never attacked, never threatened, never conquered. 300 years of choices. 300 years of restraint. She reached out and took Chun's hand. "We will try," she said. "That is all I can promise. We will try." Chun smiled. A real smile this time, warm and genuine. "That is all we have ever asked." Around the chamber, other representatives began to move. The Vorn commander clicked his mandibles and nodded. The Etherian High Seer closed her eyes in what might have been acceptance. Even the Krassian warlord, after a long moment, gave a single sharp nod. It was not perfect. It was not a guarantee. There would be more arguments, more fear, more doubt, but it was a beginning. Commander Vance watched from the side, her hands folded behind her back. She had spent her life protecting others, fighting threats, stopping violence before it could spread. But this was different. This was not about stopping something. This was about building something. She had never felt more proud to be human. The summit continued. The peace treaty was signed. And for the first time in galactic history, the species of the galaxy began to see humans not as weak creatures from a small blue world, but as what they truly were: guardians, protectors, beings who had the power to destroy everything and chose, every single day, to save it instead. The galaxy's fate had never hung on humanity's secret. It hung on humanity's choice, and they had chosen well.